Okay Jim, here, if I can hold the camera still enough, is a video of me and my block making equipment. You'll see mounted in the tool post on the lathe I have a shaper which is operated by a simple handle, some swivelly bits, and the actual slide is just some bits of ground flat stock mounted in bronze sliding blocks. All fairly simple really. In the chuck I've got a Morse taper sleeve with a tiny revolving centre, and attached to it is a plywood disc and a pointer, and from there to there is the upstand that I'm going to leave on the block. So I'm going to remove material from there all the way around, ignoring this other marking, as far as there. In order to eliminate any parallax errors with that little pointer, I mount a little mirror. I'm not quite sure how, no, there we go, look. And from there in the mirror I can get a direct view on top of the pointer, and that eliminates any parallax errors. The tool is mounted on a brass block and can be swivelled around. In this position, as you can see, it's lined up for cutting, and in this position for scraping or shaping. So I'm going to tighten it up there in the cutting position, and I'm going to put a block up between centres and then turn the block using the tool moving with the shaper machine to give me the top diameter of the upstand. Here's my block, cut into a square slightly longer than the finished item, so that I can trim the ends off from where the centre and the tailstock have been digging into it. And I've already got the settings on the lathe so that I know that I can just run down to 0, and that will be my top diameter. So here we go. So you're seeing I took some fairly fine cuts at the end to get a reasonable finish, and what I'm going to do now, I'm going to look around that piece of wood until I find the best of the ladders. I don't know if you can see that, but there is a nice ladder which I'm going to line up with the cutting tool. Blow the rubbish off there. As I showed you earlier, I then swivel the cutting tool round, doing this one-handed, which is not easy. So it's now in the scraping position with that ladder, I don't know if you can see it, just there, that ladder now nicely lined up with the tool. I'm then going to move around the wooden disc, keeping the ladder lined up with the tool, move the wooden disc until the pointer is in the middle of the area of the upstand. That means that ladder is going to be in the middle of the upstand. I then bring the wooden disc round looking in the mirror, so I lose that parallax error, bring the disc round so the pointer is lined up with the end of that upstand section on the disc. Let's see if I can zoom in a little bit. No, it doesn't want to do that. I'm now going to take my first cut, again using the same settings on the cross slide. And let me get this camera up here so you can see that first cut go across. I can then move around, shaking a bit I'm afraid. So there you've seen the first couple of cuts. I will now carry on and you can see the speed at which I move when doing the rest of them. Coming round now to the other side of that little area that denotes the size of the upstand, stopping there, move past the upstand to the end of that area again, watching the pointer in the mirror, put the next cut on, pointer carefully. That's the last cut going on now. This one is a fairly small one, and I use the shaper as quickly as possible to minimise any scraper lines that are on there. That's the one. Hopefully now you can see that upstand that's been left in position. Take that out of there. Just pop it in the vise, take a file and just trim the sides so they're nice and vertical, because my cutter is one cutter that I use for all sizes of block, and so sometimes you just have to trim that edge to get it standing up nice and straight. Now here's my recorder, here's the block, and that just goes in a very tight fit, ready for everything to be finished by hand, and the top of the block shaped for voicing. Well, I wish you luck with it, Jim. All the best.